Hi, everyone. I'm Doreen Redmond from AARP North Dakota, and I'm so glad you've joined us today for this Passport to Healthy Living program on streaming and smart TVs. The purpose of today's presentation is to make sure you're able to access programming, educational events, and things like fitness classes right from your home. And with today's TVs and advanced technology, the possibilities are endless. We have an anonymous poll, multiple choice, that we'd like to ask you right now. And Wendy, if you'd put up the poll, we're interested in knowing how you're currently watching TV. For those of you watching on YouTube, you won't see the poll. It's only for those of you watching on here on Zoom. So let's see the poll. The poll is in progress. How are you watching TV here today? So this will be helpful to us and to our presenter when the time comes, and we'll look at those results in just a little bit. So the streaming and smart TV world is continually changing and growing, and we're really eager to learn more about how we can use these services and our smart TVs to the fullest and to access the programming we desire. So we're going to get into that in just a little bit with our presenter. But special thanks to Marlene. Marlene, thanks for being with us. We appreciate you being here. We'll let you shut off your camera and enjoy the rest of the program. So thank you for your help. And if you're ever interested in helping us with these online activities, please let us know. Just shoot us an email at aarpnd@aarp.org, and we'll get you trained and ready to go and helping us with these virtual events for viewing. So now I would like to introduce you to Clarence Saylor, who is going to fill us in on streaming and smart TVs. Welcome, Clarence. Good to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Doreen.
Yeah.
Nice to actually be here.
You bet. Hey, would you take just a moment and tell us a little bit about yourself and give us a little bit about your background, please?
Absolutely. Well, I am currently one of the co-owners of Feist Electronics here in Bismarck. We sell and service electronic product, televisions, and so on and so forth. I know it sounds crazy. Nobody repairs TVs anymore, they say, but we're still doing it. One of the few. I've been doing it for a number of years. In fact, I grew up in a small town just between Devil's Lake and Grand Forks. And when I grew up, I was one of those types of guys that just had to find out how everything worked. So I would take things apart. Mom was not too happy many times because I'd take things that were working apart just to see how they worked. But it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. And I actually could repair some things that were broken. And I decided that I was going to go to school to learn how to repair televisions and radios and electronics. And that's what I did. I went down to North Dakota State School of Science, and they had nice 2-year courses for electronics. They have the second year was always an option that you could decide what you wanted to go into, whether it was computers or industry, or like in my case, it was radio TV. They had a course specifically for that. So that was great. I really enjoyed that. Graduated in 1982. And I kind of wanted to move to the Bismarck area, and I had found that the Feists here in town had just opened a store over in Mandan, and they were looking for a technician. So started over in Mandan working for them, and worked until 1999 when they decided to retire and sell the business. And my partner, Daryl, he was actually the technician that was working in the Bismarck location when I started working. He had been there for a few years already. So he and I decided to buy the business from the Feist. We've been operating it ever since. So been doing this for 39 years already. So that's a long time.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
It is a lot of fun. One of the great things about this is it's just everything's different every day. It's, you know, things change all the time. So it's really interesting.
I bet you're always learning, and that's good for us too. As we age, we keep learning and flexing that muscle memory. So anyway, that is great. Before we move on though, let's see the results of that poll that we did. How do you watch TV? Okay, most people, 64%, are saying that they subscribe to cable TV. And I'm part of that group. There's a fair amount that subscribe to one or more streaming services, 26%, things like Netflix and Hulu and whatever. 24% are using an antenna, interesting. accessing the apps on their smart TV, 14%, and then 10% have satellite TV and 10% have a streaming device. And interesting. I thank you all for sharing that information. That gives Clarence a really good idea of where our audience is at in terms of what you're using, what you're doing, and where you're at. Right now, we're going to turn it over to Clarence to tell us more about all these platforms and ways we can watch our TV. So we'll pop in with questions as we get them, Clarence. Thank you.
Certainly, yeah. If you have questions, I'm not a teacher, so I've never done this. And if I move too fast or kind of confuse you along the way, maybe you want to stop me and we can kind of back up and go through some of this stuff. But it is interesting to see that the majority of people are still on cable, and cable just gets so expensive. It keeps going up and up and up. And I know a lot of you have heard about cord cutting and wonder what that's all about. And the streaming services offer a nice way of helping us cut the cord. And we'll talk about those a little bit later on in the program. But first thing that I kind of would like to talk about is smart TVs. I noticed on the poll that a lot of people are using some devices, smart devices that'll actually allow you to stream audio and video and so forth. But a lot of people are a little bit afraid of smart TVs, what they can do. I know one of the big questions was always, is a smart TV looking in at me? And a number of years back, yes, they did have cameras on smart TVs, so you could do face-to-face communication with family and friends and use your TV for that. And there were ways that hackers could hack into your television and look at your camera as you had it on. And so, yeah, people got a little gun shy on smart TVs for that reason. But in the last number of years, they've taken that feature off of all the smart TVs, and they're pretty secure. And actually, one of the better ways of doing streaming and using some of the features that are available on smart TVs. Now, there's a lot of features on smart TVs. We won't get to quite a few of those, but just be assured that we're going to be working more towards the features that have to do with streaming today. And at the end of the show, or the end of the program, if you do have questions, you want me to show you something on the smart TVs that doesn't pertain to streaming, I can do that too. I've got a TV set up here for us, kind of live, and it's hooked up to the internet, and I can show you that. But for now, we'll kind of do some slides. Keep me on track with some PowerPoint type slides so we can get into the subject and the topics that we want to deal with today. And first of all, I want to teach you about smart TVs, because we need to know what a smart TV is. Something that people always ask is, what can a smart TV do for me? And the biggest thing that a smart TV will do today is stream audio and video from streaming services. And that's kind of what we're going to really focus on today. But to understand a smart TV, let's do a little comparison. Let's compare it to a smartphone. Most of us have cell phones, and most of the cell phones are smartphones. We pretty much know how to use those. So what can you do with a smartphone? Some of the smartphone features, obviously, of course, you make and receive phone calls. That was the whole idea behind a phone in the first place. Then the other thing that we do with our smartphones quite often is take pictures. They can also take movies, but most of us will take pictures, store our pictures and share them with people. Sometimes we want to send them off to friends and relatives. The other thing that we do with our smartphones is we store contact information. And of course, nobody remembers phone numbers anymore like we used to, simply because if we want to call somebody, we push the button or we say, hey, call mom, or whatever it happens to be. You don't remember the phone numbers hardly anymore, but it's a very nice convenience, in fact. Of course, we send and receive text messages, and that's kind of been, to me, that was going backwards, but that's just my personal opinion. I always thought that if we get into these smartphones and communication devices with big screens on, we should be able to talk face to face. And it seems like people didn't want to do that once that was available. They went back to text messaging. But I think the idea behind that is you don't have to talk face to face. And some people don't want to do that, especially the younger generation. But sending and receiving text messages is part of our day-to-day usage of a cell phone. And then, of course, I just said we could do video conferences and video calls and so forth on the cell phone. In fact, these Zoom meetings can be done completely using a cell phone as well. And then we browse the internet. A lot of people browse the internet on a smartphone. It's just amazing when you think about anything that maybe you're looking for. Just the other day, I was looking for a car battery. My car battery died. First thing you do is you grab your smartphone and you Google a car battery, see who in town has car batteries. and what type of prices they have, that sort of thing. Plus, you can get the phone numbers, anybody that you're looking for, the stores, you get the addresses. They have navigation. They can send you right to it using the maps programs on your phones. So that's just something that everybody does. And then you can also play music and movies on your phone. You can stream music and movies that we'll talk about a little bit later on, and watch pretty much anything you want that's in streaming content over your phone. And there are some games that you can play on your phone as well. So those are pretty much the properties of a smartphone, because they can run all sorts of apps, which is just short for applications. So how does that compare to a television set? Since a smartphone is a pocket computer, it was not always very smart. You know, let's kind of step back a little bit and see what was a smartphone was like in the early days. And that's something that we kind of can compare with how TVs evolved. So when you first got a phone, you were able to make and receive a phone call. They integrated an address book. Pretty soon they put in a low resolution camera. It took okay pictures, good enough. And then of course you could do the text messaging using that cumbersome number pad. And then they started putting in screens in these phones, and then you could start to browse the internet. But that was pretty clunky too on those early phones. One of the things a lot of people used them for was the MP3 player. So you could play music. You could put a little SD card or a mini card in there and fill it with music and then play that on your phone. And then they had some basic games that you could play. Then they integrated the touch screen, and really, once Apple introduced the iPhone, the smartphone revolution really took off. And of course, we have Android and iOS as the most popular operating systems on your smartphones. Now let's compare that to how smart TVs began, because a number of years ago, even about 10 years ago, they started integrating different things in your television. Obviously, the first things that we do with our TVs is we watch TV. They're a television first and foremost. Even today's smart TVs are televisions. You do not have to use smart TV features. In most cases, you can buy a smart TV and use it as a very, very basic television. That's one of the biggest things that people are afraid of, is they can't figure out how to use it as a TV. But any television that you buy should be able to be used as a regular television, even if it's a smart TV. So the next thing that they started integrating with these televisions is, because they said, well, you know, we can put a USB slot in here, and you can put photos. In fact, they put SD cards in some of the sets as well. You could take them right out of your digital cameras, because digital cameras started getting quite popular. You take an SD card, you could put it in the side slot of the television set and access your pictures. Well, eventually they were able to put movies in on these SD cards, and you could watch the movies on your smart TV as well. And along with that, you could also load your USB thumb drive or your SD card with MP3 files. And those were music files that you could play directly from your thumb drive. And that was on the very early smart TVs. They did have applications that they started integrating on these TVs that you could actually access some information from the World Wide Web. Now, it wasn't like a web browser, but what they had were widgets. A widget is just, according to them, a widget was just a little snippet or a little computer program that could pop up and show you information from the web, like what the weather was like outside, or a stock ticker, keep track of stocks, or little news tidbits or headlines. Those sorts of things were widgets, and they would pull the information from the web, display them on your television set. Now, that was in the early days of smart TV, but now today, what we consider a smart TV is usually a television that connects to the internet, will stream movies, TV shows, and music. That's normally what people think of as a smart TV. However, there are some other features that are integrated in smart TVs today. One of the newest features that have been very, very popular are the ability to wirelessly mirror your smartphone, especially your smartphone, but also your computer or tablet, so that you can see what you see on your phone or your tablet or your computer. You can see that on your TV screen. Now, that's kind of a cool feature that smart TVs have that a lot of people don't take real good advantage of. In the last couple of years, it's gotten way easier to use this feature, because the smartphones, the computers, a lot of these have come built in with software that supports this feature, making it really easy. So it's kind of nice because let's say you're at home with a bunch of people sitting around, your family, friends, whatever, maybe enjoying Thanksgiving dinner. You've got all these pictures on your phone that you'd like to share with these people. And I know it's kind of cumbersome to gather a bunch of people around you and show them your little smartphone. So it's kind of like, you know, you sit there with your phone and you're looking at all these things and people are looking over your shoulder trying to see what you're seeing on your smartphone, and this little teeny tiny screen doesn't show you much. But if you mirror this onto your television screen, it's really kind of nice because what you see on the phone, you can be looking at it on your phone, everybody else will see on your big television at home, and you can flip through the pictures. Phones can produce slideshows, all sorts of things like that. So that is just a great feature of a smart television set. Everybody that sees that feature is just in awe of that fact. And it's so easy. It used to be that only Android phones could do that using Chromecast or one of the screen mirroring Android devices. But now Apple has opened up their operating system and allowed other manufacturers to use that smart mirroring feature. So everybody can integrate that with their phones on their television sets. And it's really, really simple to do. So that's a great feature of a smart TV. Now, the newest smart TVs also accept voice commands. And if you've ever used one of the Google devices and you say, hey, Google, what time is it? You know, things like that. Or, hey, Google, turn on the light. Some people have these features integrated in their home, their smart home, they call them. Or what's the weather out today? You know, things like that. Well, the smart TVs now actually offer voice commands that you can give, very much like the Google commands. In fact, the new Sony televisions have a Google TV operating system, and they will operate exactly like a Google device, going out on the internet and searching Google for whatever you're looking for. And the neat thing about this, and I'll show it to you a little bit later on, is you can use voice commands to search for movies or TV shows, or tell the TV to change channels. Those sorts of things are available because they put a microphone in the remote control. So you have that in your hand while you're doing various functions on the television set. And it's very, very easy to use some of these voice commands. It's actually kind of fun too. Some of the smart TVs actually allow you to play games. If you're on the Android operating system, which is the most common operating system for phones, tablets, and most of the televisions now are using some form of the Android operating system. You can go out on the Google Play Store, download games. In fact, there were some games that were available where you could hook video controllers up to your TV using Bluetooth wirelessly or the USB jack on the side of the TV, and you could actually play video games as if you were actually on a regular game console. So that was kind of cool too. And they still have some of those features available as well. And then of course, there are all sorts of applications that are available for your smart TV, not just games, not just streaming applications, but information applications, utilities, things like that. Those actually run on your television as well. But we're going to talk mainly about streaming because that's what most people are wanting to do with their smart TV. So we need to find out what streaming is. Streaming, basically what that really amounts to is the ability of a device to take data from some particular source and allow you to watch movies or TV shows or listen to music over the internet on your television. That's kind of the whole idea behind streaming. So that really is what streaming is. Now, why they called it streaming, I think can be explained best off by thinking of it as a stream of water. So if you have a stream of water coming out of your faucet, water is streaming into your sink right now, and you're using it however you'd like to use it. So basically, water came from a source. It's flowing through a network of pipes coming into your home, and you have a faucet. The faucet handle allows you to turn on or off that stream of water. It allows you to decide whether you want some hot water, some cold water, somewhere in between, how fast you want that stream to run, pretty much the control of that stream of water. And then you use the water for whatever your end purpose is. Now, we can kind of compare that same stream of water flowing through a network of pipes as streaming services coming over the internet. Same type of a thing. What it is data that flows through a network of cables. It comes from some source somewhere. Somebody's computer, some building has all sorts of movies. They have all sorts of audio and video files, television shows. They're loaded on all these network of computers in their building, and that's their streaming service provider. They're called a streaming service provider. And they allow you to access that with one of the apps on your smart TV. And that's really what the app is designed to do. It's designed to access somebody's computer and start that flow or stream of data that you want to watch. For instance, if you wanted to watch an old TV show from back in the 70s, you can find that on somebody's streaming service, and you can find an episode, click the play button, and off you're running with the streaming data, playing your movie or whatever type of source that you're looking for. So the end result is audio or video streaming over the internet, either to your television, your smartphone, your computer, your tablet, or one of the other smart devices or streaming devices that you may have hooked up. So that's really what streaming is. That's the explanation of streaming. And of course, apps are used to select the content you wish to stream. Now, if you notice, there are all sorts of apps on there. And basically the whole idea behind having all these apps is the capability of choosing some particular service that has what you want they have to offer. And you can decide by hopefully figuring out who's got the best streaming service for the content that you're looking for. There's lots of ways of finding that out, but one of the things that we'll find is that most of the popular streaming apps that most people use are already pre-installed on your smart TV, which is great. So a lot of us use Netflix. Of course, YouTube is something that we've used on our computers for years. So most of you are probably familiar with that. At one time, there were a lot of short little videos on YouTubes. You could upload your own videos, and people still do that. There are also streaming services on YouTube, and then YouTube itself has a streaming service called YouTube TV that we'll talk about a little bit later on in the program as well. But what would happen if there's a streaming service that you want that is not currently showing up on your TV? And this is where a lot of problems come in. So people will see some of the most popular streaming apps, and then a new service comes out. Like a couple of years ago, Disney Plus came out. And people would say, oh man, you know, I got to have Disney Plus. That's the newest thing out there. Got some great Disney shows and some original programs. I got to have that, but it's not on my smart TV. So what did people do? They went out and they bought a Roku device or a Fire Stick or some streaming device that says, hey, we've got Disney Plus on it, not realizing that the television has that capability. You just don't know how to get it. So that's kind of what I'm going to show you right now. So let's take a look and see what happens when that particular app is not on your television. So we'll talk about the Android system, but most of the systems are very similar. But the Android system is familiar to people that use Android phones. So it's probably one of the most used systems out there. The Android system uses what they call the Google Play Store. And the Google Play Store is the place where you go and buy or download free apps. You have all sorts of apps available. So you can go to the Google Play Store to find your streaming service that's not already preloaded on your television set. Now, most of us have some sort of a Google account. You do have to have a Google account in order to use the Google Play Store. So that's one thing you have to sign up for. And I'll tell you one thing, with televisions, it's a lot easier to sign up for an account online with a computer than it is on a television. And a few minutes later, we'll show you why that is. So let's go ahead and go to the Google Play Store. And I've already logged in on this little presentation here. And we're going to add an audio streaming app. So an audio streaming app is an app it's audio only. So there are a lot of companies out there that are taking radio stations or podcasts or different audio events or audio streaming services, and they're loading them up on their app. So you'll go on to an audio app and you'll find a bunch of different radio stations that you can pick out, or some music streaming services, or some person at home has just set up their own computer with their library of music and they're sharing it with the world and you can access it, that sort of thing. So let's see if we can find an audio streaming app. Now, this is what it looks like when you're logged into your computer on Google Play Store. So we're going to click onto the Google Play Store and we can browse through the Google Play Store and we can see different types of apps that are out there. And if you look through, they've got them listed by categories. Here's a category called free movies and TVs. And we'll go to that one a little bit later on in the program. But here's some of the music apps. And a lot of you have heard of the typical music apps, but sometimes it's fun to go to something you hadn't heard of before. This is an app we're going to install. We just clicked on it, we hit the install button, and now it's going to start loading that particular app, downloading it into your smart TV. And once it's loaded into the smart TV, it will install it and then we can access it. It'll become a little icon on your home page, but actually as soon as it's done here installing, we can just click on the little open button directly from here and open that app. Now we'll see, this is very typical to most streaming audio services. They have an interface that looks kind of like this, and a little menuing system. Once it loads, you can see that the very first thing they have, got some radio stations on here. You've got different podcasts, music that's on the air. You can actually go to different countries and see what's available, like over there in Asia. Different moods. Let's pick one that's called Happy. Now we have no idea what's going to come up. In this case, an app called PKR Radio, web radio came up, and it will just automatically start playing for you. And you can listen to the music. I think it's playing now. If we don't like that, we'll click the button. Now play something entirely different. And then we can go back and hit just about anything else we want. Excuse me a second. There we go. And if we decide we want to go and delete this app, we can delete it. Or if we want to go and revisit it later on, we can always visit. It's going to be on our homepage. So that's kind of an example of downloading an audio streaming app. And you can pick just about anything. A lot of these apps are free. If there is an app that costs you money, generally it's going to tell you. So you don't have to worry too much about that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. So a lot of streaming services do charge monthly fees. And of course, the most popular ones like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, but there are tons and tons of streaming services out there, and they usually charge you a monthly fee.
Hey, Clarence.
And yes.
Clarence, we're getting a question on that. And we've got a person who would like to see a movie that's available only on Netflix, but just wants to see that movie and not subscribe. Is that a possibility?
No, you actually have to subscribe to, a lot of these streaming services are that way. You have to subscribe to them on a monthly basis in order to do that. So they're actually designed, and fortunately the monthly charge is not very expensive, but even so, they're actually designed specifically to have you pay a monthly fee. Netflix, in most cases, most of the movies on Netflix, once you pay your monthly subscription fee, are free. Very few movies do you have to pay any extra charges for. So there are some streaming services out there that you will find that you can just buy one movie. I think Google has that capability. I've never done it myself, but there are a few streaming services out there that do that. One of the services that you might be interested in, a lot of us have Amazon Prime accounts because they order things online from Amazon Prime. And with that Amazon Prime account, your Amazon Prime streaming service is absolutely free. They have certain movies that are actually included and TV shows that are included with Amazon Prime, but they have a large variety of movies then that you pay for. And that probably is one of those types of services that you can actually go on and say, oh, I just want to buy this one movie and watch. But you still have to have an account with Amazon Prime in order to do that. So
right.
very
Some
few.
of them, rent
companies.
too. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
very few companies will offer that because they want your money every month. That's their whole idea. And once you sign up, you're paying a monthly fee, and they want that steady income coming in.
right.
So yeah, so
We have one.
Netflix.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I was just going to ask you one more question along the same line on the app thing.
Yep.
I have many on my TV and it takes me forever to find something. How do I find an app? How do you
Okay.
browse
Let's take a
through
look
and
here.
find? Yeah.
So in the television usually is some sort of a menu with your apps. Now, if you look at the very top of this particular menu, this is a Sony TV. We sell Sony here, so that's why I'm demonstrating it on a Sony. That's what we have. We have a category on the very top called apps, and it's going to show you every app that you have already installed on your TV. Okay, so these are the apps that I have installed on my TV. So you can kind of just browse through them. However, there is also a search field. Most TVs have that. You can either use the microphone, click on it, and state the name of the app that you want to find, or you can type in with the keyboard. And this is where I was talking. This can be a little cumbersome, but it does work pretty good. So if you're looking for your Netflix app, for instance, you can start typing in Netflix, and all of a sudden it's guessing what you're looking for, and here it's come up with Netflix, and so then you can find it that way. But it's much easier to browse those apps if you don't have one of the apps that are already pre-installed. Like I say, in this case we would go to your Google Play Store, and then you could do the search there and find the app at that point.
Thank you.
Back out of here. And let's go back here. Okay, I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, thank you very much. And then one other question we have when we get to smart TVs, we'll cover those in just a little bit here. We have a couple of questions, but we'll wait till you get to that part. So,
okay, that sounds good. The thing about streaming service is, if a person wants to cut the cord, the idea is to try and save some money. So what's out there that's free that we can save some money on? We all have internet service, and we would like to find some free streaming content and see if we can get by without our cable system or our satellite. So this is kind of one of the things that we look for, is some free streaming content. And let me just show you, there's a couple of free streaming, what they call TV channel services that are really cool. And there's one called Xumo, it's Xumo, that I personally like. It's really cool, but there are a few others, and we'll show you those a little bit later on. And you can always discover more of them on your own. But let's add this Xumo video streaming app, and I'm going to show you a couple of options of the Xumo app. But we're still in the Google Play Store right now, and so we're just kind of zipping over here, and we found the Xumo app. We click on the install button. Same type of procedure as we had done for the audio app. It downloads into your system, it installs, and then it'll allow you to open the app. And we're going to go ahead and open this app. And the first thing that this particular app does is it says, you're going to be able to access over 190 free channels, but you can also add them directly into your Sony program guide. Now, most of us are familiar with the guide on your cable system or your satellite system, where you can see all the movies that are coming up. You can see the times, different channels that you're looking for. This is what you're going to be doing with this particular app, is adding it into your TV guide button on your actual TV. So if you look at your TV remote, now this is the Sony TV remote. This is the original remote that might come with your TV, not your cable box or any other remote, but the one with TV. And on the remote is a guide button, much like you'd see on the cable box remote or your satellite remote. And this guide will bring up information about what's on TV. If you're on an antenna system, it'll bring up all the TV antenna shows and what's coming up. Or in this case, it's going to bring up our free Xumo guides. And I'll go ahead and load this so you can see what we're doing here. We're going to go ahead and get started. and it's going to load all these channels into our TV guide. So if we watch and see what it's doing here, you're going to see all these channels. If you can read really fast, it shows all these different channels that the Zumo app supports and has in it, and it's putting it into our TV guide. And then I'll show you in a second what comes up, because this is a really neat feature and a nice way of getting rid of cable. And the only thing you're paying for in this case, and here's your guide button on the remote control, and we're just going to push that guide button, and your TV guide now on your television itself has all your Zumo free movies and TV. And they've got television channels like NBC News, ABC News, CBS, AccuWeather. All these channels are absolutely free. So let's pick one. It tells a little bit about it, and we'll hit the view button, and that channel will start playing. You might see a little bit of buffering going on because it's downloading a little bit. But once it's done, it plays just like any television show would. You wouldn't even know that you're watching it over the internet. It's where it's just a regular TV channel. And you can go back and look and see what's coming up at later times, you know, later on in the afternoon or later on tonight, or you can browse some of the other content and some of the other channels that are available on this particular app. Now, again, this is an app, but it's integrated with your television set. Now, that's one way of viewing the Zumo app, but let's take a look at another way. I've got the Zumo app on my TV here, so let me go see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. Now, if we actually run the app itself rather than going to the TV guide, you're going to see how the app looks and how the interface is. And most apps are like this particular one here too. The screen went blank here. It should come up in a second. So this is your Zumo app. It's loading, and there's a load progress bar here. And once we get up there, you're going to see categories here. You're going to see what's on. You can see all the different channels that are available. And again, like I say, it's pretty incredible because all of these channels are completely free, cost you nothing except your internet cost, which you're paying for anyway every month, no matter what. So it actually is just kind of amazing how many channels are on this and what type of content is on here. Some of these are high definition channels. Some are standard definition, but still they're very entertaining and very nice. You can look at just about anything. And this is just the full list. If you look off to the left, you're going to find that there's categories over here. You've got live channels, which are just like regular TV channels that you watch. There are free movies. You can look at that category, click on that, and you're going to see all kinds of movies in here, and they're arranged by most popular movies, some of the newest ones they just put in here. A lot of these are older movies, but they're full feature, full length movies. Now, how do they do this for free? Well, they have ads. So you're going to be watching a movie, and it's kind of like watching a movie on TV every so often. It'll stop and it'll play an ad, but then you'll get to continue to watch the entire movie. Still not a bad deal for free, since, you know, when we're watching cable, we're paying for cable and satellite, we're still watching those ads on those regular TV channels and so forth. You can go on and watch TV shows, and this is what we call TV on demand. It's maybe some old TV shows that we haven't seen in years, or maybe some TV shows that are current, that they have episodes now loaded into this particular app, which is really nice. Or we have on demand. So some of these on demand are categorized as well. Some of these you may have to have an account to see, but in most cases, everything here is free. And once we click on something, it just starts playing. It's really, really kind of cool. So this is the Zumo app. Like I say, there are many other apps very similar to this. Pluto TV just came out. That one's available. So lots of different types of apps that you can go on and use to your advantage for absolutely free, which is great.
Wow,
another app,
really cool.
It is. It's endless. You could spend hours finding these apps. Another great app, of course, is the YouTube app, and I know I was talking a little bit about that. Most of us know that the YouTube app has the capability of watching these short videos, but it actually has full length movies on there. It has some TV shows. Here's just the regular YouTube app, and you can take a look at that. It'll launch just like our last app launched, it was very much the same thing. So it brings up the YouTube app. Now it's going to bring up categories, different programs that are on there, some trending videos. You can look at, in fact, this is a good source for your 4K television. If you've got a new 4K television, it's got some great 4K content on there. But you can search for things just like I was saying. You can use that little microphone icon in the upper left corner and search for whatever you're looking for. And find just about anything on YouTube, whether it's personal people that have uploaded things or businesses that are running on YouTube and they're sporting products or whatever happens to be. Here's how you search with the text field. You actually have to cumbersomely arrow over to the letters, hit the select button. The nice thing is it kind of looks to what you're typing in and guesses that, well, maybe you're looking for this, maybe you're looking for that. In this case, I've typed in cars, and let's just see what comes up with the search result of cars. And of course, the Cars movie, the animated cartoon, comes up, and all sorts of Cars things come up. If you just browse through here and you find something that you want to watch, you can just click on that particular item and it will just start playing. Let's just take a look at this little movie here. And looks like you're watching TV, it comes up and starts playing the movie. Super nice quality, provided you have fast enough internet service.
Look at that!
So that's
Wow.
the YouTube app.
There are many cars.
Let's kind of move on because I might run out of time if I don't get to this. So this is the capability of a smart TV. If we're going to be looking at a TV that we currently have, and we don't want to buy one of the new smart TVs, and maybe you don't have the capabilities on your TV, you don't have to have a smart TV to enjoy some of these apps. You can get streaming devices, like the most popular ones are Roku, which is a streaming box. You've got an Amazon Fire Stick, and then you've got the Apple TV unit. Now, those are the most popular streaming devices that are out on the market today. And the cost is very minimal. These things are very inexpensive when you talk about, especially the Roku and the Amazon Fire Stick. They're only about 20 bucks a piece, or they start at 20 bucks a piece. You can get more expensive versions if you want. But even for 20 or $30, you can hook these up to your TV. They hook through the HDMI port, which is, a standard port that you use to hook up devices to your TV. And you operate their remote control. You sign up with their service, and on that particular service, you'll see all sorts of streaming apps and content, just like I was showing you here today on a smart TV. It basically turns a regular TV into a smart TV for not too much money. Now, the Apple TV, we'll talk a little bit about that because that's a little more expensive, little guy there. They started about $100. And one of the reasons they started at $100 is they probably are the most highest quality product that's on the market for a streaming device. And they really, really work well. Apple puts in very fast processors, so they have a very easy to use interface. And then they have just a super high quality picture. Their processing is very quick, so they can process in high definition or 4K or however it happens to be. And they do a better job than most devices do. So they're a little more expensive, but people with Apple products really take advantage of the Apple TV because it integrates across all of their devices, whether it's their smartphone or whatever it happens to be. So we're also talking about your cutting the cord type feature. If you're going to try and cut the cord, you'll probably want to find one of the streaming services that offers you local channels or a package kind of like your cable system does. Now, Sling TV is an application out there that you can buy. It starts at $35 a month. You'll get between 35 and 43 channels, depending on what you decide to pick for your package. And they have certain channels in certain packages, so you'll go online and take a look at those and see what's available. Another company that provides good services is Hulu TV. Now, that's a little spendier. It runs about $65 a month, but it provides you 75 channels in whatever package that you decide you want. And you can choose your package. Or like we talked about YouTube TV, they also do the same thing. That starts at $65 a month. And they provide 85 channels, and you can pick your package there. So whether you're a sports nut or you're a movie nut or whatever package has the channels that you want. And their applications look very similar to what I just showed you. And you'll just pick channels and play them at your will, that sort of thing. And they also have the local channels, our local broadcast channels are integrated with those particular companies. So that might help you find your way out of those expensive cable or satellite bills. If you look at some of the costs of their packages, now your Sling TV, they tell you it's $35 a month. They're giving you a bargain for the first month. They'll give it to you for $10 a month. And this is kind of how their packages run. They have a $35 orange package. They have a $35 blue package, or you can get the orange and the blue for $50 a month. And you can look at all of the stations that are available on each package and say, hey, I want this channel, I want that channel, and pick your package and sign up for whatever you want. On YouTube and Hulu TV, they also have packages as well, very, very similar in cost, but they have some different features available. They allow you the capabilities of recording like a DVR and playing back at later times if you have live TVs and you want to record those channels. So their cost is a little bit more, but they have a few extra features. The other thing that you have to be a little bit careful about is how many streams and how many accounts per household. And that's kind of a confusing thing because we're used to cable TV. So we've got 3 TVs in our house, for instance. We've got a set-top box hooked to each TV, and we're paying a monthly subscription fee for cable. And in this case, with these packages on YouTube TV, they will allow you 3 streams, which means you can watch 3 different programs on 3 different devices or 3 different TVs in your house, for instance. You can have 6 accounts, which means that each person in your house can have their own individual account that's tailored to things that they watch. When you're talking about, I pick out this type of a show, my wife picks out this type of a show, so we each have our own account. When she brings up her account, her types of shows and the things that she watch and decides that she wants to watch, those are the things that normally will come up tailored to her. And my types of movies and shows will come up for me, and they'll save the things that you watch. So if you're watching a series, that particular series will pop right up for you, and you can immediately find that without having to go through a lot of hassle to download or try and search for those particular shows and series that you're watching. So that's one thing to watch out for. If we go back to the Sling service, you could see that for $35 a month, they only allow you to have 1 device on for that price. So if you have 3 TVs in your house, you're going to have to pay for $35 for each TV that you want to stream on. Or you can get the blue service, and that'll allow you to stream to 3 TVs for that particular service, but it's only good for the pro football and news blue channels. So if you get the orange and the blue, depending on what you pay, it's good for everything, but the cost is going to be more. They say $50, but it says 1 to 3 streaming devices. So these are things to look out for when you're actually deciding if you want to use one of these packages. Are you going to stream on 1 TV? Are you going to stream on 2? Are you going to stream on 3? What are they really going to charge you? We don't know, because they're saying 1 to 3, which tells me that the $50 a month is probably 1 TV to get both orange and blue, and they'll be charging you a little bit more for the extra service on the extra TVs. Speaking about getting charged, the biggest thing that everybody asks about is, I've got a smart TV. How will I know that they're going to be charging me for watching this particular show? And that's a big question and a good question. Let me go back here, hit the wrong button. We want to talk a little bit about that, because it seems like you can get in trouble if you're clicking on buttons and it says, oh, this is going to cost you $10, and click, and away you go, and you've just bought $10 worth of a movie or whatever it happens to be. But really, that's not the case, because you're going to go through a multiple number of screens before you get charged anything. Plus, you would have to have your credit card on file before you get charged. Now, if you're on one of the streaming services and you've already put your credit card information in there, yeah, you have to be a little bit careful. Like Apple TV, for instance, everybody who has an Apple account, if you wanted to buy an app for your iPhone or your computer or something like that, you had to put a credit card on file with Apple's ID. So if you have an Apple ID and you have a credit card on file and you're on Apple TV, and you want to watch a movie and they say, oh, it's going to cost you $4.99 for this movie, it's automatically going to bill you when you say, yeah, I want to go ahead and buy that movie or watch that movie. So you do have to be a little bit careful with those. But as far as going through and looking and browsing at some of these smart television apps and clicking on them and trying them out, they're not going to charge you. It's not going to cost you anything until you verify the charge. So you're really pretty safe on that. There's only a few instances where you can really get caught. And like I say, it's usually when you have a credit card on file. So you're probably going to be pretty safe on that. So don't be afraid of trying out some of these streaming services. So now that we do know how to stream, let's talk a little bit about cutting the cord, because cutting the cord is getting rid of cable or satellite system, because you're paying, a lot of people are paying over $200 for a cable or satellite subscription for what they're getting. And what are they really getting? It's not really what they want. Over the air, we have in the Bismarck-Mandan area, and I know Fargo and a lot of the areas have very similar programming. We have 29 channels that come over the air for free. And if you have an antenna, you can hook up to your television set, receive 29 channels, costs you absolutely nothing. It's all your local channels. If you don't have good enough reception, you can put an outdoor antenna up and hopefully you can receive these channels. But a lot of content out there over the air. And it's all of your network channels. So if you're looking for the local news and any of those types of channels, they're out there. They're over the air, just like we did back when we were younger kids. We had an antenna on the roof, or we had rabbit ears if we were in town, and we watched all these channels. Well, we only watched 3 channels for free, I think. But of course, there's lots more channels now. There's 29 of them here in town in Bismarck. And let's say you got this particular antenna and you got all these channels and you said, well, I'd still like to have Netflix and maybe there's something else that you watch. Well, you can find that particular streaming app on your television or your streaming device, and you can pay the monthly subscription for that. And that's a whole lot cheaper than paying for cable with all those channels that you're not watching. So that's one option, is to go ahead and get all these channels and then stream whatever you want for a monthly fee. So you do have to remember that you still have to pay for your internet service and any of the streaming service you want. So it could actually cost you more than cable, depending on what you're looking for. So let's just kind of take a little bit of an example here. Here's some of the service fees that you'd encounter. In Bismarck-Mandan, our lowest internet service fee from Midco is $60 a month. If you decide to get Hulu TV to get all of the television channels that you want, that's another $65 a month. And maybe you want Netflix so that you could have certain TV shows and movies that Netflix has. You're going to be looking at $135 a month just for this. Now, are you paying that much for cable? Well, you have to look at it. Subtract $60 because that's your internet fee. And you could be paying that much. If you're paying a couple $100 for cable, yeah, it's $60 of that is the internet itself. So you're still paying quite a bit of money. So you could be actually paying a little bit more than what you're really expecting to pay. So one of the things that we have to also remember is that if you're cutting the cord, you are in control of what you're going to watch. You're going to have to decide whether or not you want to pay for additional streaming channels, or if those channels are even available. So that's one of the things you have to really be concerned with, and go through and do some internet checks and find out if the channel you're looking for has an application that is available and how much it's going to cost. So a lot of research before you decide to cut the cord and use the streaming services. But for most of us, it's just an additional thing that we can do. I know some people say, I like to watch NDSU Bison games and it's available on a streaming app. Yeah, that's pretty reasonable. You go on and you just download that particular app and put that on your TV and use it. So, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell, as far as streaming, how that works and things that you can do with it. So hopefully I've given you a little bit of information on that.
That was awesome. You gave us a lot, and it's generated a lot of really, really good questions. I'm just going to kind of start with some of the streaming stuff, and then we'll move to the smart TV stuff, if that's okay with you, Clarence.
Absolutely.
So, first question is, person tried to download Peacock recently, and the TV said that the TV didn't have enough room and should use an outside device to do that. How would I do that? Were they talking about a Fire Stick or Roku? I have a Samsung Smart
Mhm.
TV today.
Okay. Yep. So sometimes you do have issues with the televisions not having enough memory storage space to store all of your apps, and then you do have to use a streaming device. So basically, streaming devices work like for instance, a DVD player. If you ever hooked up a DVD player to your television set, these days they use an HDMI cable. I don't know if I have one that's everything's hooked up right now, but an HDMI cable is the new. It used to be audio video cables that we use and we'd plug them into the TV, but an HDMI cable looks a lot like a USB cable. You plug that into one of the open ports on your television, and then you change the input on your remote control. You've got usually an input button. And as you click the input button, it goes to HDMI 1, HDMI 2, HDMI 3, and they're labeled on the back of the side of the TV, which HDMI input you used. You plug that device in and power it up, and you'll see it on the screen. You use that particular remote control, whether it's a Roku device or an Amazon Fire Stick or whatever you happen to have, use their remote control and navigate through the menus, much like I showed you on the Smart TV. Very, very similar once you hook it up. So it's pretty easy to do, but the initial setup might be a little difficult because you have to connect it to your internet, your Wi-Fi, wireless internet, and then put in an account. Even though Roku and Amazon are free to have the account, you still have to set up an account with an email address, username. Sometimes you do have to put a credit card on file, even though they don't bill you, but you put it on file so that you can get apps like, you know, the streaming TV services like Hulu TV or whatnot. So.
Great. Well, I think you just covered another question about the advantages of either Roku or Chromecast, and that the advantages of those are to be able to get at those apps and stream those services more easily
Right.
through those devices, correct?
Yes, but there is one more advantage, and I'm glad they asked that question because some people will say that you're actually better off to use a streaming device like Roku or Amazon Fire Stick. And the reason they say that, and part of that is true, because the smart TVs, even though they'll have the apps built in, when you get them, they're brand new TVs, they'll have the brand new apps. These streaming services don't always support the smart TV's apps for a number of years. So maybe 3 years down the road, the streaming companies say like YouTube or Roku's, or I'm sorry, Hulu TV or Netflix, they'll say, well, you know, there's too many different television manufacturers out there. They all have their streaming apps built into their TVs. We've been updating them for the last 3 years. We're not going to do that anymore. But because the majority of people that are using streaming services are using Roku devices or Amazon Fire Sticks, we're going to support those for a lot longer period of time. So that might be a little bit of an advantage to using one of those devices. However, it's a little more cumbersome. So, you know, it's kind of nice to have everything integrated with the smart TV and you use that simple one remote. So,
Yes. Oh, interesting. So here's a couple more about streaming apps. Are there any streaming apps that give you local news? Or where do you get that local news? Do those 29 channels that are over the antenna, do those include local news?
They do. So over the antenna. Then we did talk about like Hulu TV, YouTube TV. Those applications actually provide the local channels. Now, in most cases, just like your satellite system, the local channels will be available on those applications. So you'll go on, you'll find KFYR TV here in Bismarck or KXMB. The only downside about it is, for instance, KXMB is headquartered out of Minot. So you won't see the Bismarck channel on the streaming service. They're only going to stream one of their channels. So if you're in Fargo, if you're in Minot, if you're in Bismarck, all of those will probably be showing you the Minot version of the channel because that's where they're headquartered out of. KFYR is headquartered out of Bismarck. So if you're in Dickinson or Minot, you're going to get KFYR out of Bismarck. So that's really the only downfall, but it's still not that big of a deal. Over the air, obviously, you're going to get the local channel.
Yeah. Okay, good. And I think you answered this along the way too, but with streaming, do you eliminate commercials?
Not necessarily. You know, if you're paying for Netflix, for instance, Netflix is a good one to use as an example because that was what their whole play was, is to be able to buy a streaming service and watch commercial-free programming. So on Netflix, everything is commercial free. So if you're watching an old episode, I recently watched all of the Mission Impossible series back from the 60s. It was just a lot of fun. Not a single commercial in there. It just keeps on flowing. Where the commercial breaks are, it might fade to black and then it comes right back. And it's great. I absolutely love it. And that's what people say when they're binge watching, because they'll watch episode to episode to episode. And these episodes will just keep on going as long as you're sitting there watching them. So it's really cool. No commercials. You have to make your own commercial. You hit the pause button, which is great. You can use the pause button on the remote control. So
right. I love the Great British Baking Show. That's kind of a fun one for me to watch on Netflix and go through them all.
But
hey,
like one more thing, just before you
yeah.
get into the next thing, like the streaming apps, like the Pluto TV and the Zumo TV that I showed you, those all have commercials, just like you're watching regular broadcast TV. So, and because they're free, that's how they pay for them, is with commercials. So their movies and everything will have commercials in them. Okay. So there are apps that you can get commercial free, and then there are a lot of free streaming apps. If you don't pay for it, you're pretty much going to expect commercials.
Right, exactly. Here's a good question. If I have a YouTube subscription in Bismarck, can I use that same subscription in Arizona?
You can, absolutely. Yep, you can take that anywhere you go, and one of your devices can be your phone. You know, you don't have to use a TV as a streaming device. You can use a phone and carry that on the go, and go to your neighbor's house or whatever you want to do too. So it's nice.
Right. And then how do you watch ESPN Plus on Smart TV?
Same thing. ESPN has a streaming app. In fact, their streaming app carries all of the ESPN. Now they carry all of the ESPN 1, 2, 3, ESPN Plus, and you can use that particular streaming app. Now, I don't know what the cost is for people that are on cable TV. From what I understand, you should be able to use it for free. That comes with your cable subscription. You sign in with your cable username and password, and then you should be able to get that for free. But yeah, I think you can buy ESPN as a separate entity or within one of those packages like Sling TV or Hulu TV, and those sorts of packages will allow you to buy those, add on those particular streaming devices and apps, I should say. So.
Okay, now some of our last questions here are, how do I know whether my current TV currently connected to a cable or to cable is a smart TV? How would I know? How can people check to see if they actually have a smart TV or not?
And typically on most smart TVs, there would be a menu button or a home button. This one happens to have a home button. And once you hit that button, you should start seeing some sort of a home screen that's going to list apps like you see on that screen there. And it should just come up and show you some of the apps. And sometimes, like the LG TVs, the apps will just be on the very bottom portion of the screen. You'll still see the regular TV, but you'll see the Netflix or some of the applications that are available on there. So you should be able to tell by that.
They'd want to pull out their remote that goes with their TV though, right? And hit
yes, that. Yep. You have to grab the TV remote, which most people have put away. If you have cable or satellite, you might have to find it and put some batteries in it. But yeah, that'd be the only way to really find out without going on the internet, typing in the model number of the TV, and it might tell you some of the features and specifications of the TV.
Sure. Okay. And then we have, some questions about, what's the newest smart TV, newest smart TV, what year would that be? And my remote does not have a guide button. Is it too old? But can you tell us, and, some of these questions might get answered, if you can tell us what the specifications to look for, when we are buying a new smart TV, what would you look for?
Right. The thing to look for is what type of streaming services they offer. And in most cases, if you go onto the manufacturer's website and you're looking at a TV and you're saying, yeah, I think this looks like kind of a nice TV, go on and look and see what type of features they have. They will actually show some of the services that are available on that. If it's an Android TV, look and see if they have an Android operating system. If it's an Android TV and you already have an Android phone, you know what Android has to offer. You can already see that. If it's like LG uses what they call their Web OS, and that's got a whole bunch of streaming services. Samsung uses their own streaming service capabilities. All of the new televisions have pretty much everything that you need for streaming services built in.
Okay, great. Well, those were a lot of really good questions. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And thanks again to Marlene Batterberry for being our greeter today. And thanks to my colleagues, Janelle and Josh and Marnie and Wendy, and for all of their help in the background. Just awesome to have them there. Thank you again for joining us for Streaming and Smart TVs.